So, in what ways can data capability failures compromise data resilience?
All right. So thank you, Kevin. Yeah. And just to come back, the capabilities are things like data quality, master data management, reference data management, metadata management, lineage, business intelligence, capabilities, all these kinds of things. So maybe let's go into some examples. So an example of poor data quality. And for any of you, either in the services industry or even in the manufacturing industry, how often do you need to deal wrong product codes or wrong transaction codes? And just the amount of data wrangling required to fix something or to get something right because, oh gosh, that's the wrong code that was used, or even worse, that's an expired code, or even worse, when a customer goes to one of your points of sale and you've got a fresh item off the shelf and the customer wants to buy the shelf, and the poor person at the point of sale says, oops, it's not yet in our system. Please wait, I've got to type in the barcode or whatever it might be, simply because the reference data has not yet been addressed in the back end. So you've got a customer that now has to wait longer than they were planning to, or there's reporting going out that's got the wrong data in. People make decisions on reports with the wrong data. Even worse, if those reports go outside to external stakeholders like regulators or shareholders, really the consequences of poor data quality can be significant. Other examples, what happens when you've got poor metadata? So I started speaking about what happens if someone goes on leave in the data space, or what happens if someone has taken a sick day. How does the person taking over that role really know what to do? In some cases, yes, they've been sitting with the person, work with them, and it's a relatively easy transition. But let's assume, this is an example, a person is abducted by aliens and disappears off the face of the earth. And simply, I'm saying abducted by aliens because I don't want to say hit by a bus and all of these other kinds of things that are saying, because that just sounds pretty ghastly. But then what happens? How do you maintain the sustainability of your operation? So let's say it's a person in your reporting space. Gosh, I've got to pull this report together. What do all these data fields mean? Nothing's documented. There's no information anywhere. And one of the most important things is to document that metadata. Otherwise, mistakes are made. Even things like organizational glossaries, and just that whole space is so important for operational continuity. Let's go to poor master data management. So duplicate client records, and I don't know how often it happens to you as folks watching this, but sometimes you might get two, for those that still receive, good old snail mail, two items of mail from someone that you've dealt with. And that is an indication that they've got duplicate records of you. You might have moved and they've updated something and they haven't figured out how to optimize their master data. And that's frustrating for you. Like, guys, don't you know what you're doing? Don't you know who I am? Yeah, how do you manage your client records? And you lose, that organization in your eyes loses credibility. What about poor lineage? So here you've got the CEO or an executive, and they're receiving a report. And if it's a savvy CEO, has a look at it and says, all righty, so tell me, where did you get the data from to produce this report or from this analysis? And you say, it came from server X and server Y. And the CEO who knows, who's been around the block a couple of times, says, well, that's the wrong source. Those are duplicates of something we took off server A. If you really want the right data, you've got to go to server A, because things happen by the time they go to server X or server Y. So this report is useless. But what happens if the CEO was not savvy enough to ask a question such as, where did that data come from? What happens if there was no attestation on that report detailing the quality, so that CEO knew, oh gosh, it's only 40%, level of quality. Maybe I should use a little bit more gut feel in this decision, or, oh gosh, 40%. No, hang on, throw this away. I'm going to see if I can't do something else. Versus 60 or 80%, when the CEO would say, yep, I can make a decision off this. This is good enough. I can apply experience, and we can close that sort of knowledge gap, as most CEOs will do. And these are really important things. Every single one of these examples, and so many more, compromise data resilience. And I haven't even touched on the ones we opened with, such as the availability issue. What about a data breach? I mean, I didn't want to cover data breaches because folks have probably heard about data breaches It's just everywhere, happening everywhere all the time. But every single one of these are compromises in data resilience. What was it, 2, 3, 4 months ago? There was an availability issue with Google where they had storage issues on their what was it, on their some verification servers or some authentication servers. These are all issues, and everyone's and Google was down for a day, just about, if you were trying to log on. And this, what was it, about 4 odd months ago. So all of these things, first of all, there's an impact. Second of all, they may be minor. It might be something within the organization that you can manage, but ultimately they all cost time and effort to fix. And if it impacts external stakeholders, whether it be regulators, whether it be clients, whether it be creditors, whether it be shareholders, whoever it might be, members of the community, there's a cost, and that cost is on reputation risk. And we'll speak maybe a little bit more about that later. But certainly everywhere, there are just so many different data resilience issues that can negatively affect your organization.